A disaster brought Yang Zhe to another world. The land of Kyushu was not peaceful, with wolves and smoke rising everywhere and the world in chaos. With the revival of martial arts and hidden dangers, the Tianwu Dynasty's morale was scattered, and the martial arts aristocratic families and sects were numerous, with numerous powerful figures rising together. Foreign objects descended from the world, and the emperor was about to collapse, posing a precarious situation. In this chaotic era, major forces tightly grasp the cultivation of one skill, and it is difficult to find a precious martial arts technique in the martial arts world. But Yang Zhe is not afraid. With a black stone in his hand, give me a perfect replica of the world's martial arts. I will sweep across the 8 wildernesses and conquer the 9 provinces. Keywords of the novel. Kyushu Road Master No Pop-ups, Kyushu Road Master TXT Complete Collection Download, Kyushu Road Master Latest Chapter Reading. Chapter 1. Second Young Master. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 1 Second Young Master Yuyang City, South City Young Family, a separate courtyard. The young man in black was sitting cross-legged on the futon, bathing in the glow of the sunset. His skin appeared somewhat dark, but his lips had no trace of blood. Who? The young man exhaled a long breath, and a wisp of white air spewed out from his mouth. It circled in the air for a few times before disappearing. If a secular warrior sees a young man practicing true Qi here at this moment, he will definitely be shocked. In today's world, ordinary people do not have this ability. Long breath exhaled, and the young man's eyes opened. There was a flash of essence inside, which disappeared in the blink of an eye. Instead, there was some numbness, but it was only in a blink of an eye, and this numbness had also disappeared. Yes, he has been in this world for a month now. From being confused at the beginning, to now, he can finally accept it. A month's time, actually not very long, he still forced himself to integrate into this world. His name is Yang Zhe, and he is currently located in a small courtyard in the Yangjiazhuang Garden. His identity is the second son of the Yang family. The Yang family, on the other hand, has a considerable reputation throughout the entire city of Yuyang. Leaving aside the underlying industries, the head of the family, Yang Yuanjin, is a well-known expert in the city. Even in the government, there are many people who have good friends with him. It seems that this identity is very good. After all, my father is so powerful. As his son, my life will definitely not be any worse, but only Yang Zhe knows his current status. Firstly, there is Yang Yuanjin, the head of the Yang family. He has 3 sons in total, and Yang Zhe is ranked second, unable to compare to his elder brother in all aspects. His elder brother even looks down on him. Just by looking at where he lives now, you can tell that the entire family's legitimate lineage lives in the main residence, but he moved alone to another courtyard, which shows his treatment. The second reason is why this happened, and the main reason is that his qualifications are too ordinary. The place he is currently in is a dynasty called Tianwu. Although Yang Zhe has not yet gone out, he also knows that this dynasty is a place that values martial arts, and the strong are respected. As long as there is some family background here, almost everyone starts practicing martial arts from a young age, hoping to become a strong generation, and the Yang family is no exception. As the second son of the Yang family, Yang Zhe has been practicing the most basic martial arts since the age of 8. It has been 10 years since then, and he has not achieved any fame. He is well known throughout the entire family. Because of this, at the age of 14, Yang Zhe was called by his father to move to this other courtyard. Apart from an old servant who would take care of him, there were no other people in his daily life. Fortunately, Yang Zhe is not a person who is too conflicted and enjoys himself. Now his life is also comfortable, with enough to eat and drink, but also nourishing. As long as he can live well, he is satisfied. Unfortunately, in this world, there are too many crises, and it is too difficult to make ends meet. A month ago, when he first arrived here, he was suddenly attacked by an assassin. If it weren't for Lao Xie's timely arrival, he would have been almost ruined. It also triggered a fierce determination in his heart that he must work hard to cultivate. His talent is already average, and if he doesn't work hard to cultivate, he won't know which day he will suddenly die. Looking up at the disappearing sunset, Yang Zhe stood up from the cattail and quickly walked back to his room, lighting a candle. The firelight illuminated the room, and Yang Zhe had an extra booklet in his hand, which read 3 words. The Sea Heart Technique. This high Xianju is not an ordinary thing. It is an internal mental skill, and also the only internal mental skill of their Yang family. The flourishing of martial arts in the world has led to the emergence of numerous martial arts techniques. Only by practicing these techniques can one become a warrior. In terms of martial arts, there are 2 types of cultivation methods. Cultivation methods and martial arts. Cultivation methods are internal mental methods, and only by practicing internal mental methods can one elevate one's realm. Martial arts, on the other hand, are techniques and techniques used to combat enemies. Martial arts and techniques are extremely precious. The Yang family is already considered one of the top families in this city of Yuyang, and there is only one Haishin technique. Among all the techniques, Haishin technique is just an ordinary one. But it is this Sea Heart technique that established the position of the Yang family. In this city of Yuyang, there are still many forces who cannot even have access to martial arts. The Yang family has extremely strict control over martial arts, and not everyone can access the Sea Heart technique. Only these young masters can do nothing to obtain the Sea Heart technique for free. However, the Sea Heart technique in his hand is not complete, only the first 3 layers. Only when his skill level is improved can he obtain higher level techniques. The Sea Heart technique has 6 layers, but the Yang family only has 5 layers. The 6th layer is said to have not been obtained by the ancestors of the Yang family. Even the 5-level Sea Heart technique, in the entire Yang family now, only his father has cultivated it to the highest level, and the others have only reached the 4th level of cultivation. Yang Zhe in this world only began practicing the Sea Heart technique at the age of 14 and continued to practice until the age of 18. It took him 4 years to reach the pinnacle of his first level of cultivation. And in the 2nd layer, Yang Zhe never achieved it, so the techniques in the first 3 layers are already enough for him to practice for a long time. But that was the previous situation, and now Yang Zhe is only 1 step away from breaking through to the 2nd layer. After the end of this round of cultivation today, Yang Zhe's body was finally able to briefly condense a strand of true qi. After practicing the Sea Heart technique to the 2nd level, one can cultivate a strand of true qi in their body. This state is called qi introduction. The reason why Yang Zhe was able to achieve this step is not because he did it himself, but because he came to this world with only one reliance. That is a black cubic stone that is only a quarter of the size of a palm. According to the information he received, that stone is called black stone. Although it may seem like a stone on the surface, in reality, the ability of this black stone is very powerful. The black stone has its own mysterious secrets, which can perfectly replicate the techniques it cultivates within the black stone, nurturing itself and providing it for self-cultivation. In addition, another ability is that this black stone can convert the spiritual medicine it eats into an inexplicable energy and inject it into its own body. As for the effect of this energy, he doesn't know because he has only taken ginseng once and has only been injected with energy once so far, and he can't see any significant changes. However, what can already be felt is that his spirit has improved slightly compared to when he first came to this world. It can be seen that this energy is a good thing. As for why he knew these things, it was because after he traveled here, Blackstone infused a memory into his mind. But memory belongs to memory, whether this thing is really powerful or not remains to be determined. However, one thing Yang Zhe can be certain of is that this thing is really useful, at least it has made his cultivation much faster. His right hand was placed on his chest, touching a corner. He took out a black stone and it landed in his palm, which was the black stone. It looked no different from ordinary stones on the roadside, but Yang Zhe knew that it was this stone that hit him when he left the community, bringing him into this world. Afterwards, this stone became my only reliance in this world, which can be said to be a manipulation of fate, but it also shows that this stone is definitely a treasure with a great history. At this moment, his door was suddenly knocked on. "Second young master, it's time to eat." An old voice came in from outside the door. Upon hearing this sound, Yang Zhe's eyebrows furrowed slightly, but in an instant, they returned to normal. Yang Zhe flipped his hand and put away the black stone, then turned around and stood up. "Lao Xie, bring in the food." As soon as the words fell, the door opened. An old man walked into the other courtyard carrying food. His hands were very rough, and there were faint bulging veins on the back of his hands, which made him look different from an ordinary person. The old man was called Lao Xie. He had been a servant of the Yang family for 36 years and had also learned martial arts. Among the hundreds of people in the Yang family, his martial arts were quite good, and he had always been responsible for Yang Zhe's daily life. Yang Zhe has been living alone in this courtyard since he was 14 years old, and Lao Xie has also served him for 4 years. Yang Zhe and Lao Xie are quite familiar with each other now. After Yang Zhe's assassination, Lao Xie has been taking care of him. If it weren't for Lao Xie, Yang Zhe might have starved to death in this place. "Second young master, I have left the food for you here," said Lao Xie respectfully. Yang Zhe responded lightly and saw that besides the food, there was also a ginseng placed this time. On second thought, it's almost time. As the son of the head of the family, he can receive a ginseng every month to nourish his body. When the time comes, it will naturally be sent to him. Seeing ginseng, Yang Zhe's heart also eased a bit. This kind of ginseng is considered the most common spiritual medicine in the world. With this ginseng, it can be used to test the function of some black stones. Before using the food, Yang Zhe noticed that Lao Xie was still standing here and did not leave. In his memory, every communication between him and Lao Xie was very concise, and Lao Xie didn't talk nonsense. Why is he standing here like this? Sensing Yang Zhe's gaze, Lao Xie slowly spoke out. "Second young master, I have heard some words recently and I don't know if I should say them or not." Yang Zhe frowned slightly and said, "If you have anything to say, don't hide it." As the second young master of the Yang family, he still needs to have his usual style. Seeing the second young master getting angry, Lao Xie immediately said, "There have been rumors in the manor recently that the family has sent the second young master to take care of the family's industry. Some people have also heard that the second young master is a waste of resources in the family. It would be better to send him out as soon as possible." Did Yang Deyi say the following sentence? Lao Xie paused and replied, "Yes." New book seeking collection and recommendation tickets, with 2.7 million words of completed works and guaranteed character. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Mysterious Space. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Mysterious Space. Lao Xie left, and Yang Zhe didn't ask too much. He had lived for 2 lifetimes, and knowing some things roughly would allow him to guess. Yang Deyi, if this person doesn't deal with him, it won't be a day or 2. This Yang Deyi is the grandson of an elder in the Yang family, who is about the same age as Yang Zhe, but because he is a collateral member of the Yang family, he can obtain much less resources in the Yang family compared to Yang Zhe. But his talent is better than Yang Zhe, using fewer resources than Yang Zhe. He also cultivates the sea heart technique, but he has already reached the peak of the first layer of the sea heart technique a few months ago. With only 1 step left, he can cultivate true qi, complete the second layer of the sea heart technique, and step into the qi-inducing realm. At the same time, Yang Deyi took the initiative to hug Yang Zhe's big brother, Yang Hai's thigh. On weekdays, in order to please Yang Hai, he put in a lot of effort and knew that Yang Hai did not like Yang Zhe, and even more so, he targeted Yang Zhe. So Yang Zhe would immediately guess it was this person when he heard any negative words from his family about him. However, this incident sounds quite significant. While managing the Yang family's industry may seem like reusing him, it is actually transferring him out of the core circle of the Yang family. Their brothers are not very old yet. If they were transferred out of the core circle of the Yang family at this time, their reputation in the family would be greatly reduced, and it may be difficult to control the family's power in the future. No, although my father doesn't value me in his daily life, he probably wouldn't do such a thing. He can't support my older brother to take office now. There might be someone behind this. Yang Zhe murmured to himself, his faces quickly scanning past. Yang Dei's grandfather. He quickly determined how much Yang Hai was favored, which was well known in the Yang family, so many people had already made friends with Yang Hai. As an elder of the Yang family, Yang Dei's grandfather does not need to make friends with someone who may become the head of the family in the future, but this does not prevent him from helping his grandson. If he had said something to Yang Yuanjun, his position would have had an impact on him, and he would have been able to attribute this favor to his grandson. This is quite a trouble, but it seems that these people want to transfer me out because my skills are not yet strong. Once my skills improve, I should be able to stop this matter. Fortunately, I now have Blackstone. By entering Blackstone again, my Sea Heart technique can break through to the second level. I will have another opportunity to showcase my strength. I cannot leave the family yet. Yang Zhe's unwillingness to go out and manage the industry is not because he wants the position of the owner, but because the treatment of the Yang family is too good now, and there is no need to worry about anything. If he left the estate and had to manage so many industries outside, his cultivation time would inevitably decrease. At the same time, he also understood that the outside world seemed not so peaceful. Without the umbrella of the Yang family, life would definitely not be as good as it is now. Thinking about this matter, Blackstone was once again taken out by Yang Zhe. A black stone, 1/4 the size of a palm, lay in Yang Zhe's left palm, and his gaze focused on the black stone. At this moment, the surface of the black stone seemed to burst out with infinite black light, interweaving and twisting together, flooding into Yang Zhe's mind. Before Yang Zhe could react, he felt a sudden surge of dizziness rushing out of his mind. Then, when he regained consciousness, he appeared in a pitch-black space. All of this happened in an instant, and Yang Zhe's consciousness was swept to another place by the black stone. Looking at the black space without boundaries, even though he had seen it several times before, Yang Zhe's heart was still bound to fluctuate. He didn't know what kind of power was able to create this black stone. After Yang Zhe appeared here for a few breaths, a gray light flashed in the pitch-black space, and a gray figure suddenly appeared in front of him. The appearance of the gray figure is exactly the same as that of Yang Zhe, but the gray figure doesn't have any sense of flexibility, just like a dead thing. When Yang Zhe first saw this gray figure appear, he was scared, but now he knows what this gray figure is for. Suddenly, a spot of light appeared inside the gray figure's body. After this white light appeared, the gray figure sat down cross-legged. There is a slender light inside the gray figure, which is released from that spot and swims along the inside of the gray figure. The operation root of the first layer of the Sea Heart technique. Yang Zemo thought to himself. This gray figure is the best master that Blackstone has created for him, because this gray figure will replicate his cultivation techniques, and Yang Zhe can practice according to the techniques replicated by the gray figure. However, it is unknown whether Yang Zhe has perfectly replicated it, but he saw the Sea Heart technique practiced by the gray figure, which is indeed more perfect than the one in the booklet. But specifically, he still needs to find an opportunity to test his father in order to verify. In Yang Zhe's gaze, the gray figure quickly ran the first layer of the Sea Heart technique through completely, but did not stop, but started running the first layer again. For this situation, Yang Zhe also couldn't understand, perhaps because his Sea Heart technique had only been trained to the first layer, so the gray figure can only replicate the first layer now. At this moment, Yang Zhe also sat cross-legged and followed the cultivation path shown by the gray figure, practicing together. There were many loopholes left in Yang Zhe's previous cultivation of the sea heart technique, which were reversed by Yang Zhe's use of the black stone during this period, and he almost broke through to the second level. Nowadays, Yang Zhe's heart technique is in operation, and the pores on the skin of his body quickly close and close at this time, repeatedly repeating this process. The speed of the sea heart technique displayed by Yang Zhe is not too fast compared to the gray figure. Quickly, Yang Zhe ran the sea heart technique for the first time, but he didn't stop. Instead he followed the gray figure to practice crazily. He had already planned to enter Blackstone this time and had to break through to the chi-inducing state before stopping. I don't know how many times it has been running, but the fleeting condensed true chi in Yang Zhe's body quickly swam through his body, stimulating his pores to open. Yang Zhe was as calm as an old monk, focusing only on cultivation. Finally, at a certain moment, that strand of true energy froze in his body. At this moment, the slender light inside the gray figure opposite him changed its path and swam once. After one go, a white light flew out of the gray figure and rushed into Yang Zhe's body. Yang Zhe's body shook and his momentum surged, and he broke through. At the same time, lines of text came to Yang Zhe's mind, which were the cultivation methods of the second layer of the sea heart technique, but they were much more detailed than what was recorded in the booklet. Before he could be happy, Yang Zhegang opened his eyes and his consciousness became blurred. His eyes were spinning around, and space disappeared before his eyes. Yang Zhe in the other courtyard suddenly opened his eyes, and his momentum rose with it, adding an extra strand of true energy to his body. Success, I succeeded. Yang Zhe's face turned red with excitement after the breakthrough. Blackstone is indeed able to nourish himself. Practicing in a mysterious space not only achieves twice the result with half the effort, but the gray figure also uses Blackstone's power to help him successfully break through, making him understand the feeling of cheating. I absolutely cannot reveal it. This is my biggest secret. Yang Zhe thought to himself that he had put away the black stone, and the perfect version of the sea heart technique he had practiced could not be passed on, otherwise he would face great disaster. Yang Zhe, who had calmed down, looked at the already cold dishes and started eating them recklessly. Practicing was very exhausting and needed to be replenished as soon as possible. Even the ginseng he had prepared was easily consumed by him. Just after finishing his meal, Yang Zhe's black chest suddenly heated up, and then he felt that some of the things in his body had been quickly digested. At this moment, a stream of heat appeared out of nowhere from his abdomen, spreading to all his limbs and nourishing his body. A tingling sensation rose, and Yang Zhe felt much more comfortable all over, even consolidating his realm. The feeling of emptiness and exhaustion from excessive cultivation that had just broken through had also largely disappeared. It feels great to have cheats. Give me time, no one from the Yang family can threaten me anymore. Maybe then, I can start my own business in Yuyang City. This era is not peaceful, only one's own strength is truly strong. If possible, Yang Zhe never wants his fate to fall into the hands of others. But it was obvious that he was still too far away from considering these things. He went to tidy up and then lay down to sleep. The next morning, when Yang Zhe had just woken up, his door was opened, and a middle-aged man in black with thick eyebrows and a Chinese character face had already walked in. Upon seeing this person, Yang Zhe's heart was shaken. This person was his father, Yang Yuanjin, the head of the Yang family. He is also the top expert of the Yang family, and the entire foundation of the Yang family can be said to have been built by this person. Yang Yuanjin's appearance was sudden, and Yang Zhe didn't feel it at all. The difference in strength between the two was still too big, and Yang Zhe didn't understand why his father came over now. It seems that Lao Xie is not lying. You have indeed been much more hard-working lately. You didn't get up so early in the past, so sit down. As a father, I have something to tell you when I come over today. During the conversation, Yang Zhe had already sat down with Yang Yuanjin. My face is rosy and my breath is calm. It seems that I have achieved some results in practicing martial arts during this period. Come on, if there is anything I don't understand in my daily practice, feel free to bring it up. Today, I will give you a good answer. New book seeking collection and recommendation tickets, end of this chapter. Chapter 3. Young Deyi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Young Deyi. Yang Zhe was stunned for a moment. He really couldn't understand what medicine his father was selling in the gourd today. In his memory, he had never seen Yang Yuanjun like this before. Seeing no response from Yang Zhe, Yang Yuanjun's eyes flickered and he said, "What's wrong? Can't strict father treat his child better?" No, it's just that there are too many questions in my heart, I don't know where to start asking," Yang Zhe quickly explained, appearing thoughtful. After a moment of silence, Yang Yuanjun said, "Since that's the case, then I'll tell you the sea heart technique. After all, practicing martial arts is based on internal mental techniques, and the sea heart technique is an undisclosed secret of our Yang family. If you don't understand anything, feel free to ask." Yang Zhe's gaze flickered and he said, "Father, I would like you to demonstrate the complete sea heart technique to me once." As soon as he spoke these words, Yang Yuanjun's gaze immediately changed to a different color. Yang Zhe did not avoid Yang Yuanjun's gaze and welcomed him. "Okay, I'll show you the complete sea heart technique once." Without refusing, Yang Yuanjun sat cross-legged on the cattail in the room and began to exercise his skills. As a result, his breath began to fluctuate, and he could feel his momentum gradually becoming stronger. Yang Zhe took a few steps back and stared intently at Yang Yuanjun, who was practicing martial arts. After just over 10 breaths, a hint of joy appeared in his eyes. Although he couldn't fully see through Yang Yuanjun with his eyesight, based on his observations of the gray figure in the black stone over the years, Yang Yuanjun's proficiency in the sea heart technique was not as good as that of the gray figure. "I've posted it, the sea heart technique in my hand is really a perfect sea heart technique." Yang Zhe was very excited in his heart, but he didn't show any emotion. It didn't take long for Yang Yuanjun's demonstration to end. He was completely not worried that Yang Zhe would use this time to learn the sea heart technique. He had never heard of any genius in the world who could learn the inner mind technique by watching people's movements. He just didn't know Yang Zhe's true purpose, and through Yang Zhe's pretense, he raised several questions encountered in practicing the sea heart technique, and Yang Yuanjun helped him answer them one by one. It wasn't until half an hour had passed that the QA ended. Father's guidance today has saved the child a long way to go in the future. Thank you very much for Father's guidance. I still don't know what happened when Father came today. As the conversation changed, Yang Zhe asked, but he never forgot that Yang Yuanjun was here to talk about things. And when he asked this question, Yang Yuanjun's face became serious. He said something seriously, but it made Yang Zhe's face change greatly. "It's like this, my family has an idol industry in the North City recently. I want you to take care of it. As for the treatment, I will definitely not treat you unfairly and will give you the highest treatment. And if you take care of this industry, I will try my best to leave the majority of the profits for you. In addition, I will also send 8 skilled qi-inducing experts to help you. By the way, you can also bring Lao Xie over. Lao Xie's skills are also among the top in the family. With him, your life safety is guaranteed. In this case, over the course of several years, you will definitely accumulate a considerable amount of wealth, enough for you to live your entire life." "Why? Father, why is this?" Yang Zhe's tone was full of confusion, he really didn't know why it was like this. He didn't have any room for negotiation, it was just an assignment. Yang Yuanjun came here purely to announce, without giving him any opportunity. This is to drive him away from the Yang family. According to Yang Yuanjun's intention, it is difficult for him to take care of that industry for a few years, then move him away and come back here. Even if Lao Xie had leaked some information in advance, he did not expect it to be so serious. Yang Yuanjun's face was a bit complicated, and after thinking for a moment, he immediately spoke up. I didn't originally want to tell you, but you will know about this sooner or later, and since you have already asked, I will tell you. 6 months later, Wuyang Martial Arts Academy will be recruiting disciples in Yuyang City. Our young family happens to have a spot to participate in the assessment. I have decided to select one of your 3 brothers to participate in this assessment. If anyone can pass the assessment, they will become disciples of Wuyang Martial Arts Academy from now on. When Yang Yuanjun spoke the last sentence, there was a slight emotional fluctuation in his tone. Although it quickly disappeared, it was still caught by Yang Zhe. At first, Yang Zhe didn't react, but soon he remembered what this sentence meant, and his breathing became rapid. In the memory of this lifetime, it was a world completely different from the Blue Star. In the Tianwu Dynasty, the martial arts civilization flourished, and almost no one knew about martial arts. The flourishing of martial arts civilization resulted in countless people practicing martial arts throughout the entire Tianwu Dynasty. It is said that the strongest martial arts practitioners in the martial arts world can achieve flying to the sky and escaping to the earth, which is simply incomparable to ordinary people. And there are some powerful warriors who have established various forces, and martial arts academies are one of them. If they can join them, they have the opportunity to become powerful warriors. Just wanting to join the martial arts academy is not an easy task. In Yang Zhe's memory, he has heard of a martial arts academy that has come to Yuyang City to recruit disciples. After all, the existence of martial arts academies is too far away from them. Although their young family still holds some status in Yuyang City, they are still far from reaching the level of the martial academy. Thinking of this, Yang Zhe immediately realized how precious the spot his father had mentioned was, and it was bound to cause a fierce competition. And their young family's assessment quota will also cause a fierce competition. After all, if they can enter the martial arts academy, their life trajectory will change. But soon he realized that he needed to choose one of the 3 brothers for this spot, and depending on his father's current intentions, there was already a result for who this spot should be given to. This news came at a considerable cost for my father, and as for this quota, it is even more important for our young family. There are not many families in the entire city of Yuyang who can have assessment quotas. This time, our young family must use this quota to send our children to the Wuyang Martial Arts Academy. Yang Yuanjun's voice was full of firmness. As the helmsman of the young family, if a martial arts academy disciple could be produced within the family, he knew very well how much support the young family would have. As Yang Zhe's face gradually returned to a calm state, Yang Yuanjun knew that Yang Zhe had understood. To be frank, this matter could not be hidden for long. Instead of causing trouble later, it was better to solve it now. If your elder brother leaves, you will be the most outstanding in my family, and having you around will not be conducive to your 3rd brother's development. Therefore, you should go out early to exercise. In the future, I will try my best to arrange a path for you. If you can manage your industry well, it is not impossible to help you secure a position in the government. Yang Yuanjun said it easily. He knew that Yang Zhe might be very angry inside, but he couldn't control so much anymore. Father, my 3rd brother is only 10 years old. Have you already arranged everything for him? Yang Zhe's voice was very calm, and he remembered his 3rd brother Yang Shan. He and Yang Hai were born to the same mother, who had passed away many years ago. Yang Shan was born after Yang Yuanjun continued playing the string, and Yang Yuanjun now loves his wife very much. For this young son, he naturally loves his house and his daughter. If Yang Hai could really enter the martial arts academy, then he would not be able to take control of the Yang family in the future. As the head of the family, Yang Yuanjun chose to give the position to Yang Shan, while Yang Zhe wanted to completely leave the Yang family, which was everything arranged by Yang Yuanjun. Zaire, your 2nd mother's family also has many industries in the city. Only when your 3rd brother takes charge of the family can it develop better. I hope you can understand this. What about the quota for the martial arts academy? Do I have no hope at all? Your elder brother's qualifications are much better than yours. We only have one spot to participate in the assessment, and we must send out the most promising talents. What if I can defeat Big Brother? It's impossible. Your elder brother's skill has reached a very high level, and his peers can surpass him. There are not many in Yuyang City, so you should give up. I can agree to everything my father arranges, but I hope he can grant me a request. Tell me, as long as it's not too much, I can promise you. I want to practice the Black Tiger Sabre technique, and in the next 3 months, I hope to have a competition with my elder brother. Regardless of whether I win or lose, I will accept the arrangement at that time. Yang Zhe spoke out his demands, and Yang Yuanjun fell silent. However, he eventually agreed to Yang Zhe's request because in his heart, Yang Zhe could not defeat Yang Hai. He also passed on the Black Tiger Sabre technique to Yang Zhe. It seems that Yang Zhe already knew about Yang Hai's cultivation of the Black Tiger Sabre technique, otherwise he wouldn't have made this request and wanted a fair competition. Yang Yuanjun has left, and Yang Zhe's heart is now very complex, and the joy of breakthrough is completely gone at this moment. However, at this point in the matter, he also saw that there was no room for turning things around, and now he is also taking a risk. There are cheats around him, and if he can enter the martial arts academy, he has a great possibility of becoming a strong player on his own. He doesn't want to give up this opportunity easily. In this world, if there is an opportunity in front of him, it is up to him to fight for it. With the help of Blackstone, defeating Yang Hai in 3 months is not something that cannot be achieved. If he wins at that time, Yang Yuanjun will change his mind and the person who can participate in the assessment will be him. Even if it doesn't work out in the end, he will gain the Black Tiger Sabre technique and the Shanghai Heart technique, which will increase the possibility of building his own foundation in the city of Yuyang. This incident happened early in the morning, and Yang Zhe no longer had the mood to meditate and practice. Instead, he went to the yard and started punching. As his skills improved, he punched with one punch, and the air was drawn out, exhaling a powerful punch. Without stopping, Yang Zhe continued to fight with one fist, not with advanced techniques, but with the most basic techniques he had practiced as a child. Now that he was playing with them, it still looked somewhat impressive. It wasn't until the sun had set that the sound in the yard stopped, and Yang Zhe, who was covered in sweat, was willing to enter the room to practice. The next day, Yang Zhe walked out of the yard and had been here for a month. He had not yet gone out to explore, but today he wanted to explore the estate. As a result, he had just opened the door when a gray-clad man in black overalls, who looked similar in age to him, stood there. Seeing Yang Zhe come out, the man in gray also showed a smile on his face, an unfriendly one. "Yo, it seems that I came right today. I didn't expect our shrunken turtle's second young master to dare to come out today." Before Yang Zhe could speak, the gray-clad man spoke first. "Yang Deyi, I'm not in the mood to play these tricks with you today." Yang Zhe's eyes were full of disgust, and this person was Yang Deyi. It seemed that he had received the news that he was going to compete with Yang Hai, so he chose to jump out at this moment. "What's wrong? You dare to challenge the young master, but when you see me, you want to run away. If you don't have the ability, let's leave early. Don't embarrass yourself in 3 months. Otherwise, come practice with me today," Yang Deyi said in a disdainful tone. Yang Zhe, who originally wanted to leave, glanced at the arrogant Yang Deyi. "I hope you don't regret it, see you at the martial arts arena." With just one sentence, Yang Zhe walked towards the martial arts arena built at the specialized gate of the manor for their practical training. Yang Deyi didn't expect Yang Zhe to agree, but his words had already been spoken and he couldn't go back. He quickly followed suit. When Yang Deyi and Yang Zhe stood together at the martial arts arena, the news had already spread throughout the estate, and a large number of people were gathering towards the arena. Yang Zhe, who had average qualifications, reappeared in the martial arts arena after many years, which was already a hot news. However, he still had to compete with Yang De, which made it even more exciting. On the martial arts arena, seeing so many people gathered, young Deyi was very excited in his heart. He felt that his opportunity to make a name for himself was coming. Defeating a spoiled second young master head-on would definitely elevate his position in the Yang family once again. The excited mood made his body tremble slightly. Before he could make a move, he had already fantasized about what it would be like to wait for the next punch to hit Yang Zhe. Seeking collections and recommended tickets, I saw a book friend mentioning the issue of family infighting, so I will explain it later. If you think it's okay, you can continue to read it. I'll explain it later. End of this chapter. In Chapter 4, the revised text. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In Chapter 4, the revised text. At the request of the editor, it is necessary to make modifications to the previous text. It is not necessary to keep updating, and I will continue to update it after the changes are completed. I will try my best to make the changes as quickly as possible. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Black Tiger Sabre Technique, Part 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Black Tiger Sabre Technique, Part 1. The Yang family manor is very large, and Yang Yuanjin specially cleared a piece of land in the manor to build a training ground for people to practice martial arts. Many martial arts academies and family children usually practice martial arts here. 2 martial arts arenas were built in the training ground, and each arena was 3 basketball courts in size. At this moment, more than 100 people gathered around the martial arts arena where Yang Zhe and Yang Deyi were located. Most of these 100 people are courtyard guards. They usually need to practice martial arts regularly to protect the safety of the manor. The remaining half are members of the Yang family. But now more people are coming from all over Yangjiazhuang Garden. As soon as this news spreads, there are inevitably people who want to watch the excitement, and even some people of the same generation as Yang Yuanjin have appeared here. Before Yang Zhe and Yang De could make a move, suddenly a strange voice came out of the crowd, and a man in white walked out. This person has a fair appearance and is dressed in white clothes, exuding a different temperament among the group of martial artists. He looks very gentle and weak. But it was this person's appearance that caused the crowd to give up a spot for him, and everyone's gaze towards the man in white was also very important. The young master has come. If he could show me how I taught you a lesson, then I would really make a profit. Yang Deyi became even more excited when he saw the man in white appear. Has Yang Hai come out yet? Alright, I'll beat up your dog first, and then compete with you well in 3 months. Yang Zhe thought to himself, but didn't say anything. Yang Zhe, if you can't make a move yet, you still want to delay until more people see your appearance, Yang De said disdainfully. Since you can't wait anymore, I'll take action now. Yang Zhe had just finished speaking when he had already moved. With a push of his right foot on the ground, Yang Zhe's leg strength erupted, and he had already rushed out. He clenched his fist with his right hand, and the bulging veins on his fist proved that Yang Zhe did not retain any force in this punch. Yang Zhe's move was not only taken aback by Yang De, but also by the people on the field. They didn't expect Yang Zhe to take action as soon as he finished speaking, which was too simple and crude. He truly deserves to be the second young master who has never fought in real life. His actions are not in line with common sense. This guy is so brainless when he takes action. With this move, all the flaws on Yang Deyi's body will be exposed before he gets close. At this point, as long as Yang Deyi can grasp a flaw and take action, he will definitely lose. It's just that Yang Deyi doesn't need to seize his flaws. A young master who has practiced martial arts for so many years and hasn't yet entered the realm of chi stimulation can defeat him head-on. Yang Hai, dressed in white, looked coldly at the situation on the field and had already made an analysis. When he spoke, Yang Deyi had already made a choice. He clenched his right hand and punched Yang Zhe. He is confident that his expertise in the Sea Heart technique surpasses Yang Zhe, and his overall strength is stronger than Yang Zhe's. He wants to see Yang Zhe defeated head-on. It was a long story, but in just a few breaths, the fists of the two collided. In such an instant, Yang Deyi's face suddenly changed. The power transmitted from Yang Zhe's fists was much stronger than his, and he directly disrupted his entire body's qi, causing his body to be thrown backwards. However, at this moment, Yang Zhe withdrew his fist and whipped his left leg, directly sweeping onto Yang Deyi's body. Yang Deyi's body flew out and rolled on the ground several times before stopping. Yang Zhe is not planning to stop yet. The person has already pounced and will continue to attack. But at this moment, a black shadow blocked Yang Deyi's way and slapped Yang Zhe. Yang Zhe felt that the power of this palm was beyond his ability to resist, and he retreated inside his body without continuing to move. Big brother, your men have taken action. Does this mean that Yang Deyi has already been defeated? Yang Zhe said calmly, blocking him. It was Yang Hai's servant with impressive strength, at least a mid-level martial artist in the qi-inducing realm. I didn't expect your sea-heart technique to break through to the second level. Yang Deyi was careless today, and he lost. However, if you think that the second level of sea-heart technique can compete with me, then you are completely wrong. Let's go. Yang Hai just glanced at Yang Zhe and then left with his people. For him, even if Yang Zhe broke through to the qi-inducing state, it did not pose any threat. As Yang Hai left, Yang Zhe also left. He believed that his father would see this scene, and he was afraid that he would see his father again later. After both of them left, the martial arts performance naturally came to an end. At the entrance of the other courtyard, Yang Zhe indeed saw Yang Yuanjin waiting for him there, and he came up to ask when Yang Zhe's sea-heart technique had been broken through. Yang Zhe had already figured out the reason and directly said that yesterday's guidance gave him insights, and then he broke through. Yang Yuanjin also had no doubts. There were no flaws in what Yang Zhe said, and he was too lazy to bother. He casually said a few words before leaving. Yang Zhe turned around and entered another courtyard. It seemed that his father's attitude was very clear. Even with his breakthrough in martial arts today, he did not show much performance. It seemed that he had almost no chance of getting the 3-month quota. However, no matter what, he was determined to take action today. If Yang De bullied him too much and didn't teach him a lesson, Yang Zhe couldn't help but feel this anger in his heart. But his ability to win is really a bit of luck, because he took advantage of Yang Deyi's carelessness. Otherwise, with Yang Deyi's practical experience, it would not be easy for Yang Zhe to win. Winning Yang Deyi is not a big deal, the competition 3 months later is the most important. There are no spots, and I also want to defeat Yang Hai. Otherwise, I'm afraid I'll have to keep my tail between my legs in this Yang family. Yang Zhe muttered in a low voice, knowing very well that in order to defeat Yang Hai, there are 3 points that must be achieved. One is that the progress in one's own sea-heart technique cannot be slower than Yang Hai. The second is that practical combat ability must be improved, otherwise he will have all his strength and won't be able to play much. The third is to practice the Black Tiger Sabre technique. Yang Hai has already started practicing the Black Tiger Sabre technique, and if he doesn't know it, he is already far behind. Closing the door, Yang Zhe began to study the Black Tiger Sabre technique. In addition to martial arts, there is also martial arts. Martial arts are the techniques used to fight against enemies. The Black Tiger Sabre technique is a martial arts discipline. The reason why the Yang family was able to occupy a place in Yuyang City is not only because of the sea-heart technique, but also because of 2 other martial arts, one of which is the Black Tiger Sabre technique. The Black Tiger Sabre technique has 3 moves inside, but to put it plainly, there are only 3 types of sword techniques. The 3 types of swordsmanship are all attacks, without evasion or defense. A move is an attack in order to unleash sharp swordsmanship. The first move is to kill the tiger. The second move is Tiger Roar. The third move is the fierce tiger descending the mountain. The name may seem impressive, but in reality, it is a three-style sword technique that is used with three different cutting trajectories and different cutting techniques. If the three moves can be repeatedly used, their power is also impressive. At least defeating opponents of the same level who do not have martial arts skills is not a difficult problem. Ordinary swordsmanship like Black Tiger Sabre can no longer be ordinary, but also has a cultivation level. The Black Tiger Sabre technique has three levels: beginner level, minor level, major level, and ultimate level. If one can achieve great success in practice, it is to be able to unleash the three types of knife techniques with one go and unleash them as one pleases. It is not easy to master the Black Tiger Sabre technique, and it is not easy to master any martial arts. As far as Yang Zhe knows, the entire Yang family may not have mastered the Black Tiger Sabre technique to the fullest extent, and they are probably not as skilled as their hands. But relatively speaking, it is relatively easy to get started with this ordinary martial arts. As far as he knows, Yang Hai has been practicing for about a year or two, at least reaching the entry-level. It is unlikely that Yang Hai will reach a small level of cultivation, and his talent cannot be considered a top genius. As a martial arts skill, it takes a lot of time to refine the Black Tiger Sabre technique to reach a small level. The booklet was flipping through Yang Zhe's hand, and he had already begun to carefully study the Black Tiger Sabre technique. The Black Tiger Sabre technique starts from form to meaning. Practice the moves first, then gradually practice the moves. When the two can be combined, the Black Tiger Sabre technique is considered beginner. From beginner to novice level, it is an improvement in proficiency. As for achieving great success, it is necessary to understand the core principles of the Black Tiger Sabre technique in order to achieve it. Gently closing the booklet, Yang Zhe found that his head was still a bit sore after reading it. It seems that this Black Tiger Sabre technique is not very complicated. After reading it once, I can get a rough idea of the content, but when I asked him to practice it, I felt the difficulty involved. Following the first picture recorded in the booklet, Yang Zhe practiced, and in less than half a cup of tea, he felt a feeling of soreness in his body. However, he did not give up, but continued to cultivate, and this process lasted until dark. After dinner, Yang Zhe locked the gates of the other courtyard and the bedroom, and hid in his own room. During this period, he had to do this every time before entering the mysterious space of Blackstone to prevent being discovered. For this Black Tiger Sabre technique, he never thought of having to practice for 3 months on his own. He has tried it today, and with his talent, it may be difficult to get started in 3 months, so he still needs to rely on this mysterious space. Are you a fool if you have cheats and don't use them? Focusing on the black stone, Yang Zhe saw infinite black light coming out of his pupils, and in the next moment, his consciousness returned to that mysterious space. In just a few breaths, the gray figure reappeared. This time, the gray figure stood opposite Yang Zhe, who looked at him. In the next moment, a gray light gathered on the gray figure's right hand, turning into a tiger-headed sword. As soon as the gray figure grasped the tiger-head knife, it had already started to move, and a set of knife techniques were applied from his hand, which was exactly the Black Tiger knife technique. The revision is over. Currently, there is one update every day. After the revision status, there will be 2 updates. We hope to collect and recommend new books. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Black Tiger Sabre Technique, Part 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Black Tiger Sabre Technique, Part 2. Upon seeing this scene, Yang Zhe's eyes flashed with joy. Indeed, all martial arts techniques could be perfectly replicated in this black stone. I have just started practicing this Black Tiger Sabre technique, but the Black Tiger Sabre technique displayed on the gray figure's hand is like practicing for decades, with smooth movements. Watching the gray figure repeatedly display, Yang Zhe quickly followed the gray figure to move. Although he didn't have a knife in his hand, it didn't stop him from learning from the gray figure. Over and over again, in this mysterious space, the 2 figures kept dancing. There is an inexplicable mysterious power in the mysterious space, and every time Yang Ze cultivates here, he feels that it will be much easier than practicing outside. At this moment, I am practicing the Black Tiger Sabre technique again, using the action pictures recorded in the booklet to practice. My body's soreness has weakened a lot, and I can even complete several movements. But Yang Ze is not a genius after all, he cannot achieve the level of a gray figure in one go, and when he can't hold on, he can only meditate and rest on the side. While standing aside, Yang Ze did not completely relax, but carefully observed every movement of the Black Tiger Sword technique exhibited by the gray figure. The Sea Heart technique has become a perfect version in the hands of the gray figure, and this Black Tiger Sabre technique will definitely undergo different changes in the hands of the gray figure. Time slowly passed, and the sky and earth spun before him. Space disappeared, and Yang Ze's consciousness returned to its essence once again. It's another 3 hours, it seems that the time I can enter Blackstone now is 3 hours. Yang Ze glanced at a burning incense stick in the corner of the room. After multiple observations by Yang Ze, the longest time he can stay in the Black Stone is 3 hours each time. Beyond this time, the mysterious space will exclude him. If he wants to enter next time, he must wait for 3 hours at the earliest. This time is not long, fortunately he has already observed a lot during those 3 hours. Because I haven't even mastered the first move of my Black Tiger Sabre technique, the only move I can use from the gray figure is Tiger Kill. According to Yang Ze's observation, the tiger killing replicated by Blackstone is more concise than what is recorded in the booklet, with some movements being more concise, making it easier to practice and more powerful. Without much thought, Yang Ze took advantage of the deep memory in his mind and immediately began practicing. In the small house, a figure began to move. In the glow of the candlelight, the owner of this figure's gaze was firm, and every blow was with full force. 3 days later, while Yang Ze was still practicing boxing in the yard, a knock on the door had already started. Then the gate opened and Lao Xie walked in with a long black package on his back. He placed the black package in front of Yang Ze, and Lao Xie lifted the black cloth, revealing a 2-foot-long sword. Yang Ze grabbed the handle with his right hand and immediately felt the weight. With a gentle wave, he pulled the knife out of its scabbard and slashed it towards one side. "Not bad, it's hard enough and sharp enough," Yang Ze said satisfactorily, his gaze fixed on the blade. "I entrusted the blacksmith Wang from Nanqing to make this, using top-quality materials. If second young master wants to practice swordsmanship, it will be more than enough." As Lao Xie said, since Yang Ze told him a few days ago that he wanted a better knife, he immediately contacted the blacksmith and produced a decent one. "By the way, I usually need to practice a few times and do practical exercises, so there should be no problem." "That's naturally not a problem, but remember to go to the training ground, the second young master. Most of the guards in the manor will practice there when they have nothing to do. If you go there, whether you want to practice with people or use equipment, you can do it." Lao Xie replied. "Well, by the way, what about the arrangements you made for leaving the city?" Yang Ze suddenly asked again. Upon hearing these words, Lao Xie's face changed for a moment and he said somewhat awkwardly, "Is second young master sure to leave the city? It's not very peaceful outside this worldly city now, let alone outside the city. Even inside the city, some bad things often happen. No matter what the situation outside is, I am determined to leave this city. Lao Xie, do you understand?" Yang Zeping said quietly, retracting his sword from its sheath. Lao Xie looked at Yang Ze and sighed. He didn't understand what Yang Ze meant. "I understand, second young master, there are still more than 20 days left. I will definitely arrange things well." After old Xie finished answering, he had already left. Yang Ze understood what Lao Xie meant. In Lao Xie's view, he had lived under the protection of the Yang family all his life and had no idea what the outside world was like. In today's world, there are people who do whatever business outside. You can even pull out the Yang family flag in the city. After going out, if you encounter bandits or something, the Yang family flag may not be effective. But Yang Ze had no choice. After he was transferred out, there would be few places where he could rely on the Yang family. Now, he is like a flower in a greenhouse, without going out to experience some things, how can he grow? Moreover, he didn't come with this knife just to pretend. With this in mind, Yang Ze's right hand holding the knife became much heavier. He left a lot of buffer time for his first time out of the city, and this month was calculated by him. In 3 days, with the help of Black Stone, he practiced the first move of Black Tiger Sabre, Tiger Kill. In 1 month, it was enough for him to reach the beginner level of Black Tiger Sabre. During this period, he will gain more practical experience and his strength will improve significantly. If he goes out of the city again, he will have some self-protection ability in case of accidents. 1 month later, in the training ground. Yang Ze was crazily striking a sandbag, and every time he punched it, a depression appeared on the sandbag. With so many repetitions, the sandbag had already become much flattened. There are now around 30 nursing homes training in the training ground, and many of them are now using their spare light to sneak a peek at Yang Ze. In their view, after defeating Yang De once that day, these 2 young masters came to the training ground every 2 days, just like a different person, and each time the training volume was much larger than theirs. They thought Yang Ze couldn't hold on for long, but they didn't expect it to last for almost a month. Not only that, since Yang Ze arrived here, he has often sought out these guards for sparring and has not put on any airs. If he encounters someone who is not as strong as him, he will not take a heavy hand. If he encounters someone who is more powerful than him, he will not lose his temper when knocked down. Instead, he will get up and ask for advice from others. During this period, the views of these guards towards Yang Ze have changed a lot, and Yang Ze has gradually integrated into their circle and established connections. And Yang Ze's actions during these days naturally did not deceive Yang Hai. Yang Hai's subordinates had already reported to him. At this time, Yang Hai stood in his yard, his face looking a bit ugly. I have achieved great success. Not only have I become more focused on practicing martial arts, but I have also learned how to win people's hearts. My second younger brother is like a different person. But that's also good. Otherwise, defeating a useless person would be meaningless. Don't stop, keep staring at him. I want to see what else he needs to do. As soon as Yang Hai spoke, Yang Deyi and the servant who had saved him at the time responded and retreated. But when they arrived at the training ground again, Yang Ze had already left. Normally, Yang Ze would not leave the training ground so early. He would train with these guards until it was dark before leaving. However, he couldn't train so late today because tomorrow was the day he had arranged with Lao Xie to leave the city. He is going out tomorrow and has made an appointment with Lao Xie to prepare some things today, so he needs to go back first. It may not be as troublesome for someone else to go out, but he is different. He is the second son of the Yang family, so it is definitely not realistic to sneak out. You still need to report to the head of the family, otherwise in case of an accident, who can afford it? Sure enough, by the time Yang Ze returned, Lao Xie had already been waiting for him there. Second young master, the head of the household has agreed to let you go out, and the carriage is ready. We will go out tomorrow after midnight, Lao Xie reported. It's gone. Yang Ze hesitated for a moment, was it that simple? Otherwise, the second young master thought he needed to prepare something. To be honest, if it weren't for the fact that the second young master was leaving the city, if it were only in this Yuyang city, whether it was the inner or outer city, the old servant could take you out at any time. Lao Xie looked at the somewhat surprised Yang Ze and stopped lingering, then left. Yang Ze still felt a bit resentful in his heart. It seemed that his presence was not enough. He had thought he could bring a few guards out to some extent, which made him appear more imposing. But it's okay, going out on your own is not for enjoyment, but with your own plans. Yang Zhe picked up the knife and practiced the black tiger saber technique in the yard before stopping. He practiced the black tiger saber technique every day, which has become his current habit. Not only that, he also practices the sea heart technique every night. Even with a black stone in his hand, he never forgets that his true talent is ordinary and unremarkable. Without hard work, how can he become stronger? The next morning, just as Chen Shi arrived, Yang Zhe brought his knife and walked towards the outside of the Yang family estate. When he arrived at the gate of the estate, Lao Xia was already sitting in a gray-yellow carriage waiting for him. When he saw Yang Zhe coming out with a knife, his eyes flickered. Yang Zhe walked straight into the carriage, and then Lao Xia picked up his whip and lightly whipped it. A brown horse with long hair slowly began to move, pulling the carriage towards one end of Qingshe Street. They were about to leave along Tairong Street. On one end of Tairong Street is the wealthy area of the southern city, inhabited by people of high status, while on the other end, it leads to the outer city. Seeking collections and recommended tickets, end of this chapter. Chapter 7. Going Out of the City, Part 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Going Out of the City, Part 1, Yuyang City is divided into an inner city and an outer city. As the name suggests, according to the internal and external divisions, the outer city is inhabited by ordinary people, as well as those who are homeless, beggars, and even poor areas. But the inner city is different. Those who can live in the inner city are at least those who have some status in Yuyang City, or those who have strength and wealth. Therefore, in the eyes of the people in the outer city, the inner city is a wealthy area, where there are some wealth and prestige that they cannot enjoy. But not many people can live in the inner city, so the inner city is naturally smaller than the outer city. In Yuyang City, the outer city occupies 70% of the area. The entire Yuyang City is divided into 4 parts: East, West, North, South. The Yang family is located in the southern city and is one of the most well-known families in the southern city. The vast majority of the Yang family's industries are also located in the southern city. One end of Tairong Street connects various mansions in the wealthy area of Nanshan, while the other end gradually appears in front of Yang Zhe at this time. The carriage drove along Qingshe Street until it reached the end of Tairong Street. A gray-white stone wall appeared in front of me. The tall gray stone wall stood at the end of Tairong Street, extending along the left and right sides, forming a barrier that separated the entire inner and outer cities. The gray and white stone wall has an exit, which is guarded by 4 people. These 4 people are all dispatched from various families in the inner city to specifically guard the entrance and exit. If you want to enter the inner city, you need to review it to avoid anyone mixing in, and all parties have their efforts to rotate here. With Lao Xia present, censorship was not a big deal, and soon the carriage left Tairong Street. Sitting inside the carriage, Yang Zhe felt the carriage shake for a moment, and then heard the noisy voices on the street. He understood that he had already reached the outer city. As the carriage kept moving forward, Yang Zhe could hear the sound outside getting louder and louder. The noise, shouting, bargaining, the voices of adults and children were all present, and Yang Zhe's eyes had a slightly different color at this moment. After 2 months in this world, he finally felt something different. The former Yang Zhe only left the inner city many years ago, and all he could feel was the memories in his mind. In the Yangjia manor, although there are several hundred people in the entire estate, the large estate always appears somewhat lifeless and less popular. Today, I finally saw another side of this world. Opening the curtains, Yang Zhe's gaze had extended from inside the carriage. He saw the bustling street outside, with vendors setting up stalls and shops on both sides of the street. People come and go, some walk into shops, some lead horses very quickly, and more people shuttle through various small stalls, buying things. The air in this outer city was completely different from that in the inner city, filled with various flavors. Yang Zhe greedily took several sips. He didn't expect such a place in the outer city, which should look similar to the ancient dynasties of his hometown, but it was much better than he had imagined. Second young master, how do you feel? As Yang Zhe looked around, Lao Xie's voice came through. Not bad, it looks quite popular, there's nothing bad about it. Yang Zhe's gaze just swept over a pancake stall. That's natural. The market here is one of the closest markets to the inner city and is under the jurisdiction of the Su family. Those who dare to cause trouble here in Yuyang City are really eye-catching. Yang Zhe's eyes flickered, no wonder this place looked so calm. It turned out that this place was under the jurisdiction of the Su family. Speaking of the Su family, it is the top-ranked family in the entire southern city, with a reputation even higher than the Yang family. With the Su family's reputation, it is normal for no one to cause trouble. The southern city is very large, with many street markets like this, and these powerful forces in the southern city divide these markets. Some people who want to occupy stalls and open shops in the market need to obtain the consent of the powerful forces and pay enough silver in advance to be eligible. And every month in the future, the powerful forces controlling this street market will come and collect a certain amount of protection fees. If someone cannot pay the protection fees, then there is no need to do business here. And this market is very close to the inner city, so there are naturally fewer people who dare to cause trouble. Therefore, the profits here will definitely be higher than in other places, and only the Su family can swallow them alone. However, the situation in the city is not so simple. In addition to these families, there are also various martial arts gangs. These martial arts gangs are not fuel-efficient lamps. They do all kinds of business. When they are fierce, they directly compete with the families in the inner city for territory. Once a battle occurs, if some people do not die, they cannot stop. The gang is outside, and within the aristocratic families of Yuyang City, there are often conflicts, which is a major factor causing chaos in the outer city. Once a battle occurs, the unlucky ones are ordinary people. As for the government of Yuyang City, it can indeed be considered the strongest force in the city, but the power of so many gangs and aristocratic families combined far exceeds that of the government. Therefore, the government can only occasionally stir up trouble, including secretly sharing the benefits, and cannot prevent this kind of chaos. But the premise is that the number of experts gathered by the major forces in Yuyang City can make the government wary, otherwise the garrison in Yuyang City would be enough to deal with these forces one by one. Some of these things are already in Yang Zhe's memory, while others were specifically studied by him during this period. Otherwise, he really wouldn't know anything. After looking at a cup of tea, he withdrew his gaze. Compared to the bustling city scenery of his past life, this place still seemed quite monotonous, and he was not interested in continuing to watch. Lao Xie didn't speak either, he just drove his carriage all the way towards the outside of the city. On the road, there was silence, and Yang Zhe only occasionally poked his head out to look. He finally saw martial artists besides the Yang family. These warriors come from the martial arts world, as well as from some martial arts schools in the outer city and other families. However, no matter who they are, their skills seem to be ordinary, and there is actually no martial artist from the qi-inducing realm. He specifically asked Lao Xie about this. Second young master, practicing martial arts is not such an easy task. Practicing martial arts requires strong qi and blood to achieve success. The simplest way to cultivate qi and blood is to have enough food. Many ordinary people outside only have enough food to eat, and there is no surplus food to eat. Where can there be strong qi and blood practice, the realm will naturally not be able to rise. This is Lao Xie's explanation. Upon hearing it, Yang Zhe also felt that it was reasonable. If practicing martial arts were really that easy, the number of Yang family's qi-inducing experts would have been increasing, rather than just a few. It seems that my identity is not too bad. At least when I am in my teens, I can cultivate to the qi-inducing realm, which is considered top-notch in the entire Yuyang City. However, I have only now reached the first level of martial arts, and there is still a long way to go. It took a whole 2 hours for the carriage to reach the south gate, and Yang Zhe inside the carriage felt a bit bored. Roughly calculated, it took about 10 miles. The carriage was walking through the main entrance lane in the center of the south gate. The defending officer saw that it was a carriage belonging to the Yang family, so he ignored it and continued chatting with the defending soldiers. "How's it going? Have you heard about the recent strange events? What strange thing is going on, boss? Hurry up and tell me. We just stay here watching every day, where can we get your information? I don't need to say this, you will know sooner or later. I have a distant relative who lives in Kinjiling, 100 miles away. 3 days ago, he suddenly came to my house and said that there is a shortage of water outside the city and there is a drought. Now, many people have died in villages hundreds of miles away. Well, this person is not talking nonsense, is he? We've had a lot of rain this year, and there's also the hanging fishing river rolling outside. How could there be a drought and even death? Otherwise, how could I say this is a strange thing? If he had said it alone, I wouldn't believe it, but the fact is that there have been many more people from various villages in the city recently, and they all look like refugees. What they said was about drought, and the wells in the village have dried up. Some people wanted to go to the Chueyu River to fetch water, but in the end, they all drowned in the Chueyu River. Is this evil or not? So this matter is really too sinister. Do you know from above that something has happened from below? I already know. It is said that Constable Yuan in the city took the order of the Lord and took people to investigate. During this time, I've been keeping my spirits up. If something really happens outside, there will definitely be many people rushing into the city. Don't forget that there are mountain bandits hiding in the mountains outside. These bandits are not fuel-efficient lamps. If we take advantage of the chaos and rush into the city, we will all be ruined. When these soldiers at the south gate chatted, these words were all heard by Yang Zhe inside the carriage. Yang Zhe didn't know what was going on with this kind of cult, so he had to ask Lao Xie. Unexpectedly, Lao Xie was very serious this time and asked him not to ask more, so Yang Zhe stopped asking. After reaching the official road outside the city, the carriage stopped. "Second young master, don't you know where we are now? Follow the original plan and take a look around within a radius of 30 miles. Lao Xie immediately drove his carriage along the northwest path, and Yang Zhe dared not take too much risk. Outside the city, unlike inside, there were wild beasts and mountain bandits. If you are far away from Yuyang City, you will not know what will happen in any mountain or ditch. It just seems that the world is really not peaceful." After the carriage walked along the path for 20 miles, 70 or 80 robbers suddenly surged on both sides of the path, surrounding the carriage driven by Lao Xie. Seeking collection and recommendation tickets, new books are really in need. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Going Out of the City, Part 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Going Out of the City, Part 2. At the moment when 70 or 80 robbers appeared, Lao Xie had already stopped the carriage, because these robbers had already surrounded them, and he could never force them out. The clothes on these robbers are all torn, and each person is holding a big knife, but many of them have a few notches missing from their big knives, which doesn't look good. There was only one burly man, dressed in a complete garment, holding a large knife that was 3 feet long enough, with a cold gleam on the blade. Just a brief glance, Lao Xie had already seen through all the situations of the 70 or 80 robbers, appearing calm on the surface, but with a disdainful smile in his heart. At this moment, the curtain of the carriage was lifted, and Yang Zhe walked out of the carriage and sat beside Lao Xie. Before the carriage could stop, he had already heard many footsteps around him, and he knew they were being watched. After improving to the qi-inducing state, not only does one's eyesight improve significantly, but also their listening skills increase slightly. However, he still didn't let Lao Xie drive away. His hearing could tell from the heavy footsteps of these robbers that his background was not good, and he couldn't tell if he didn't believe Lao Xie. Sure enough, seeing this scene made Yang Zhe feel even more amused in his heart. But those robbers were different. When they saw only Yang Zhe walking out of the carriage, many people's faces relaxed a lot. "Boss, a stinky kid who's still wet, plus an old guy, will do them." Beside the burly robber, a guy with a mischievous expression pointed a knife at Yang Zhe and the two of them, shouting loudly. "The boss hasn't even spoken yet. There's no place for you to speak here, go and be quiet." Behind the thief with a sly expression, another robber pushed him away. "That's right, let's see how old and young people dare to wander around outside. Maybe it's some young master who has never seen the world before. We must tie them up and extort them well. Take a look at their glamorous carriage again, and then at this fat horse. It's definitely a wealthy family, but I don't know if there's anything on the carriage. Let me cut this carriage for him with just one strike." The robbers present looked at Yang Zhe and the others, their eyes shining brightly, almost their eyeballs flying out, loudly discussing whether Yang Zhe and the others were still listening. "Second young master, should we start now or?" "Don't worry, wait and see. Is there anyone among these people who can threaten you?" "Huh," the second young master looks down on the old slave. "Even if these people go up together, they won't hurt me, let alone threaten me." Upon hearing Yang Zhe's question, Lao Xia laughed directly. With this smile, the burly man's eyebrows furrowed and he felt a slight unease in his heart, and he suddenly drank heavily. "These two guys look a bit off. Let's take action together, kill the old one and keep the young one." The burly man swung his right hand with a big knife, and 70 or 80 robbers rushed forward. The person who just said he was going to split open the carriage with one knife rushed to the front, and the big knife with 2 notches in his right hand slashed towards the carriage with an excited smile on his face. But while his knife was still in mid-air, a figure rushed out several times faster than him, and then the robber's smile froze. Lao Xie punched the robber with his left hand, hitting him with a crisp sound of broken bones. The robber's body had already fallen to the ground and his nose was flat. When one punch knocked down a robber, more than 10 robbers had already arrived around the carriage. The more than 10 robbers waved their knives together and chopped towards the carriage, seemingly intending to smash it together with Yang Zhe. At this moment, Lao Xie's body was falling, and his right hand pressed against the roof of the carriage with one hand. With his right hand as the fulcrum, he quickly turned around and swept out his legs, unleashing his strength. More than 10 robbers were all kicked out by Lao Xie, and half of them lost their breath on the spot. Lao Xie's 2 attempts were both in the midst of lightning and fire. By the time Yang Zhe recovered, several corpses had already been lying on the ground. He saw his entire blood accelerate and boil. He finally saw how the person was killed, and now this situation made him nervous and excited. Isn't that his purpose for leaving the city? Finally, he arrived. Fortunately, Lao Xie came out with him. Otherwise, even if he had better skills than these robbers, he would definitely have been taken. How can the combat experience trained in daily life compare to those who have truly fought in life and death? While Yang Zhe was thinking, Lao Xie was still taking action. He had more than 10 lives on his hands, and at this moment, there were only a small portion of the remaining robbers left. Yang Zhe was not idle either. Nervous and excited, he saw a robber rushing towards him and quickly got off the carriage. The robber approached him, and Yang Zhe missed his body. He took a step forward with his right foot, leaned closer, and punched the robber. Yang Zhe used a lot of strength in this punch, but due to a slower strike, the robber's body flew out and rolled on the ground a few times, fainting and not being beaten to death with a single punch. It was this one move, and 4 more robbers appeared next to Yang Zhe, blocking his front, back, left, and right with 4 knives. At the moment of crisis, Yang Zhe grabbed his right hand behind him, lifted the black cloth behind him, and a large knife appeared. With a strong pull, the knife was unsheathed. With a flash of sword light, Yang Zhe's right hand swung out, and 4 large knives fell to the ground. Blood sprayed out from the necks of the 4 robbers, splashing onto Yang Zai's body. Several large red spots appeared on Yang Zai's black clothes. When the blood fell on Yang Zai, he felt the warmth of the blood. His hands trembled gently as he looked at the 4 corpses on the ground. Blood was gushing out of his neck artery, and his gaze flickered rapidly. He killed someone, it was his first time killing someone, and he also killed 4 people at once. Even if he was a person of 2 generations, this was his first time killing someone. Now his heart was greatly shaken. Seeing someone killing someone and himself killing someone was a completely different feeling, which made him feel a bit dazed for a moment. So much so that he was in a daze that the burly man approached him without noticing. When Yang Zai discovered it, a large knife had already reached his head, and the light reflected off the blade. His eyes were flickered, and the knife had already swung straight towards his head. At the critical moment, Yang Zai placed his right-hand knife horizontally on his head, trying to block the blow, but at this moment, Lao Xie had already rushed towards him. Lao Xie's right hand had bulging veins on the back of his hand, his index and middle fingers together, and he tapped on the blade. With only a faint clang, the burly man felt a strong squeeze from his right hand holding the knife, causing it to deviate. This time, Yang Zai caught the opportunity, and the crossbar sword transformed into a horizontal slash, directly striking the burly man. The burly man's body retreated and a large opening appeared in his stomach, from which blood was flowing. With a scream, the burly man shouted out, "Cover my retreat. If you want to leave, it's not so easy. Just take me and kill the tiger." Yang Zai shouted, rushing towards the burly man before the other robbers could charge forward. The blade slanted out at a 45-degree angle, pouring all its energy into the right wrist. With a slight shake, all the energy was transmitted to the blade, greatly improving its speed and strength. This tiger killing was unleashed by Yang Zai's hand, slashing at the chest of the burly man, splitting open his ribs and cutting open his internal organs. The burly man fell down. Before the bandits on the side could react, their leader had already died, leaving them with no fighting spirit. The remaining bandits quickly escaped. And Lao Xie didn't catch up with the escaped bandits, but instead dealt with the bandits on the ground who had lost their mobility but still had a breath. The reason why he didn't pursue was because he saw that Yang Zai's strength was running low now. If he were alone here and encountered an enemy again, he might not be an opponent anymore. Sure enough, after Lao Xie finished dealing with the remaining people, Yang Zai's right hand shook and his knife plunged directly into the ground, panting heavily in his mouth. It shouldn't be, these people are not as skilled as me. How could I be so tired? Yang Zai took a breath, with a little sweat on his forehead. This is because you are too excited, and when you encounter an enemy, you don't have a good sense of propriety. Every time you make a move, you use excessive force, and because you are nervous and can't control it, you need to use more force afterwards to stop your attack. With each move, your strength is consumed faster than others, and coupled with the days of the first murder, the subsequent counterattack also directly squanders all your strength, which is why you are weak so quickly. Lao Xie walked up to Yang Zai and explained to him. With Lao Xie's explanation, Yang Zai finally understood. However, second young master doesn't have to lose heart. After all, this is a real battle. There is a gap in the training on the peacetime training ground. In the training ground, everyone cannot die because of your identity, so the experience you have gained is difficult to apply to actual combat. After this battle, I believe second young master can improve a lot. Moreover, our most important goal is to see blood, and we have already accomplished it. Lao Xie's voice echoed in the small path. Yes, this is Yang Zai's purpose for leaving the city this time, to see blood and truly engage in a life and death battle. When he learned that there was no relatively peaceful scene outside the city, he had this plan and finally completed it today. A warrior without blood, can he still be a qualified warrior? Thank you to Shiloh's petite wife for her free-spirited, poor, and peculiar poetry, as well as Airy Nisa's watchful apricot poem. She only wants to drink Kuo Luo, Qianqing Mu Shui, Qianyu Liuli Yu Tsang Tsang Jiang, Wudao Honey, Qinshilong, and the recommended votes cast by her book friends 20200403175066723. The above list is taken from the writer's assistant. Please understand if there are any omissions. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. An Attack. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. An Attack. Fortunately, the carriage was not destroyed in this battle and was still intact. Yang Ze returned to the carriage to regain his strength, while Lao Xie began to touch the corpse. For people like Lao Xie who have struggled in the martial arts world, although these robbers may not have many good things on their bodies, even small mosquitoes are still meat. Jianghu people like Lao Xie still care about these things. Yang Ze rummaged in the carriage and saw a brand new set of clothes inside, which was exactly his size. He didn't know why Lao Xie had prepared a set of clothes here before, but now he understands. After killing a few robbers, he was covered in blood splattered all over his body, with several blood stains on his body. If he went back like this, it would be too conspicuous, and after switching to a new set, there was no need to worry about these issues. After putting down his knife, Yang Ze activated the Sea Heart technique to restore his strength. He killed so many people on his first murder, but his mood did not fully recover. Lao Xie didn't spend too much time completing the body search, mainly because these robbers were really shabby and didn't have much on them. Driving the carriage, Lao Xie drove back towards the direction of Yuyang City. The first task was completed, and now they can proceed with the second task. As for these corpses, Lao Xie has no intention of cleaning them up. There are many robbers outside this world, and if they are killed, they will be killed. Anyway, no one will take care of them, and their lives are not worth it. After traveling 10 miles in the direction of arrival, the carriage veered off one side of the path and entered a forest near the path, stopping at the edge of the forest. At this point, the sky had gradually darkened. Second young master, let's stay overnight in this position tonight. If we go inside, in case we encounter any danger, I'm afraid I won't be able to protect second young master. The place where the carriage is parked at this moment is not far from the road, just at the edge of the forest. Upon hearing these words, Yang Ze walked out of the carriage and looked at the gradually gloomy forest. His heart was truly shaken. It truly deserves to be a world similar to ancient times. Today, as the west mountain sets, the earth slowly enters darkness. The depths of the forest are dark, and looking outside, there is almost no light left. Sure, let's take a night's rest in this position. Lao Xie got off the car and leapt forward with a palm, cutting off the branch at the top of a tree beside him. He took out a fire folder from his pocket and lit the branch, and the fire had already started. The light of the fire illuminated the surroundings of the carriage, and Yang Ze also felt a little warmth. The second young master has a rest at night, and I will call you when the wild animals come out. Lao Xie said, taking out a xiaobing, baked cake and griddle, and handing it to Yang Ze. He had originally planned to go hunting and roast some meat for Yang Ze, but today when he saw Yang Ze's performance as a newcomer in the martial arts world, he dared not leave Yang Ze and had to protect him. And their second mission out of the city this time was also very obvious, which was to stay outside and wait for the appearance of the beasts for a night. According to Yang Ze's understanding, the city was relatively safe during this era, but the wilderness and wilderness areas were pitch black and completely natural. Such a place has caused wild beasts to roam freely, and most people dare not walk outside at night. Only martial arts practitioners have the courage to do so. Yang Ze's goal is to hunt and kill several wild beasts, not to sell them, but to practice their strength. Compared to ordinary martial artists who only know a little bit of martial arts, these wild beasts have much greater strength and will be more effective in practice. And time quickly passed by in this night. There were not too many twists and turns that night. This place is not far from Yuyang City, and they just ran into a hyena overnight. Yang Ze rightfully fought against this hyena, but it took some effort to solve it. Not long after killing the hyena, it was already dawn. The two of them changed their clothes and set off to return to Yuyang City. On the way back, they no longer procrastinated. Lao Xie's whip hit the horse, and the horse ran faster and faster. It wasn't long before they could see the tall city wall in front of them. However, at this moment, Yang Zhe in the carriage heard a rapid sound of horse hooves, which could distinguish that the speed was much faster than theirs. Yang Zhe lifted the curtains and saw a burst of dust rising from behind their carriage. Then, 5 strong horses quickly passed by the carriage and headed towards Yuyang City. Who are those people? Yang Zhe asked as he watched the shadow of the horse disappear. It's from the government, and the person leading the way is none other than Constable Yuan in the Yamen. The 4 people behind him are also experts, and I'm not confident in dealing with any of them, explained Lao Xie. Yang Zhe remembered yesterday when he came out from the south gate and heard what the guards at the city gate were saying. Constable Yuan was the person who went out to investigate strange things outside the city. This Constable Yuan, Yang Zik, has long heard of him. He is a top expert in the Yuyang City Yamen and has fought against his father before, but the outcome is unknown. The other people who can be taken out by Constable Yuan to investigate the situation are certainly not weak, but judging from their anxious appearance, there may be some problems that arise. Yang Zhe turned his head and forgot about this matter. No matter what Detective Yuan found out, it has nothing to do with him now. With his strength, he still cannot manage so many things. The top priority is to win the competition 2 months later. 3 hours later, the carriage returned to Tairong Street, and Yang Zhe and Lao Xie turned around and entered Yangjiazhuang Garden. When they entered Yangjiazhuang Garden, someone had already reported the news to Yang Hai. Disappearing for a day and a night is a bit interesting. It seems that I also need to do something, otherwise I wouldn't even know if my second brother would have calculated it. Old Du, please contact the people of the One Shark Gang for me. No way, young master. At that time, they failed to assassinate the second young master, but instead damaged a skilled beginner in the Qi-inducing realm here. Because of this, the One Shark Gang is now very hostile towards you. Yang Hai's confidant, the old Du who had blocked Yang Zhe's move, listened to Yang Hai's advice. Lao Du, I know what you're worried about. The One Shark Gang shouldn't blame me for this. The person who killed them is Lao Xie, and the reason lies in Yang Zhe. What does it have to do with me? They are smart people and know who to cooperate with better. Also, my goal from beginning to end was not to kill my second brother. I just hope that my second brother can be more peaceful and not pose a threat to me in this lifetime. You don't need to worry. Although our actions are covert, it is impossible for my father to find out if he wants to investigate. The reason why my father did not blame me is because I did not have the intention to kill. Alright, can you help me contact the One Shark Gang so that I can discuss the next steps with them? Old Du's persuasion was futile, and he let out a long sigh before retreating. At this moment, Yang Hai summoned Yang Deyi and explained some things to him again. When Yang Hai was plotting against Yang Zhe here, Yang Zhe had already returned to his own courtyard. He was completely unaware that his elder brother was actually the person who had targeted him in the first place, and he also did not know that his elder brother had targeted him again after failing once. The next morning, while Yang Zhe was still resting, the gate of the other courtyard was frantically knocked on. When Yang Zhe went out to open the door, he saw 2 servants asking him to hurry to the family hall and find him for something important. Yang Zhe couldn't refuse and had to follow these 2 people to the Yang family's conference hall. As soon as Yang Zhe entered the hall, the 2 servants retreated, and there were already several people sitting inside. Yang Yuanjin, the head of the Yang family, sat in the first place. The only martial artist in the Yang family who had reached the pinnacle of Qi, looked at Yang Zhe walking over with a calm expression. On his left and right sides, there are 4 chairs and 4 elderly people wearing cloth clothes sitting on them. These four people are the second highest level experts in the Yang family after Yang Yuanjin, all of whom have advanced cultivation skills and are also elders in the Yang family. The two elderly men on Yang Yuanjin's left side are Yang Zhe's uncles, while the two on his right side are offerings invited by the Yang family. Besides, there are no other people in the hall. Yang Zhe felt a little puzzled in his heart, why he suddenly called himself over. He became even more vigilant, and had already smelled something wrong from this battle. He must not be careless. Yang Zhe has arrived, Elder Hongyi, you can say it now. Yang Yuanjin spoke first, breaking the quiet atmosphere in the hall. As soon as Yang Yuanjin finished speaking, the second old man on his left was about to speak. However, at this moment, Yang Zhe's heart sank. It was actually Elder Yang Hongyi who wanted to speak up. Elder Yang Hongyi was Yang Deyi's grandfather, and his relationship with Yang Zhe was definitely not good. If this person spoke up, there would still be good things waiting for him. But he couldn't stop it either, so he could only listen and see what Yang Hongyi could say. Report to the homeowner, late last night, the Wansha gang and Jinghai gang in the southern city joined forces to launch an attack on our industry in the southern city, causing us to lose a lot of manpower. Yang Zhe, what is your opinion on this matter? Yang Yuanjin suddenly asked Yang Zhe. Father, the Wan Shark gang and the Jinghai gang have really eaten the courage of the bear and the leopard. They dare to take action against us. This matter cannot be exposed just like this. We must give them a painful lesson. Yang Zhe knew that Yang Yuanjin had a good face, and when encountering such a situation, he had to follow the words that Yang Yuanjin liked to hear. However, both the Wan Shark gang and the Jinghai gang are not as strong as our Yang family, and even if they unite, they are not as strong as us. This time, they dare to attack us, and there must be something suspicious behind it. I think the reasons behind it also need to be investigated. Seeking collection, seeking recommended tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Investigation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Investigation. Just as Yang Zhe finished speaking, Ang Hongyi beside him burst out laughing, which made Yang Zhe very uncomfortable. Master, I can say that this child is still a prodigious person. He didn't act recklessly because our Yang family's strength is stronger than others. He would still consider it more. I think it's feasible to leave this matter to him. When Yang Hongyi said this, the other three people, except for Yang Yuanjin, all nodded in agreement with Yang Hongyi's words. Yang Yuanjin, who was sitting in the main seat, also spoke again at this moment. Zaire, the situation is like this. The Wan Shark gang and the Jinghai gang suddenly launched an attack on us. Elder Hongyi suggested that you handle this matter. After our discussion today, we think Elder Hongyi's proposal is quite good, so we would like to ask for your thoughts. Upon hearing Yang Yuanjin's words, Yang Zhe felt extremely reluctant to go. Although he didn't know what kind of trap was waiting for him behind this, as long as it was brought up by Yang Hongyi, he felt it was best not to go. Father, I don't think it's my turn to go about this matter. You and all the elders are here, and it's more suitable for either of them to go than me. No matter how big the Wan Shark gang and the Jinghai gang are, they are not as strong as our Yang family, and it's definitely not something that my level can compete with. Yang Zhe quickly said. If we could go, we wouldn't let you go either. Recently, the Lord of the city has come to us for help, and the five of us couldn't escape in a short period of time. Even if we encountered this, the Lord of the city only allowed us to come back temporarily for a morning, so this matter can only be handled by your next generation. Yang Yuanjin explained. It's broken. Yang Zhe began to cry in his heart. Father, there are many people in that family who have more qualifications and strength than me. It's not my turn to handle this matter, let alone others. Big brother is stronger than me and has higher qualifications in the family. I think it would be much more suitable to replace him with big brother, Yang Zhe continued to argue. Nonsense, your elder brother is currently practicing in seclusion and preparing for the Martial Arts Academy assessment in 6 months. Your third brother is still young, and besides you, who else is more suitable than you? You will go out to manage your industry in the future. I hope you can start learning from now on. As for the strength and qualifications you mentioned, you don't have to worry. I will pass on the order. In this matter, when I am not around, your words will prevail at home, and we will try our best to mobilize manpower for you. If there is really something that cannot be solved, please send someone to send me a message. I will ask Elder Hong to come back and help you as soon as possible. Zaire, this is the first time my father has entrusted you with a major task. I hope you can show your attitude and not let me down or let down my cultivation of you. If you can't even do this well, I'll have to think carefully about the arrangements I made for you before. Alright, that's all for today. You go back and think carefully. There was no room for negotiation in Yang Yuanzhen's tone, and Yang Zhe had no other choice but to agree. After the meeting, Yang Zhe walked out of the conference hall in a state of despair. His current mood was very complicated. In his father's heart, was he so insignificant, and was his father so biased? There are only 2 months left for the competition between him and Yang Hai. If Yang Hai wants to practice martial arts, he doesn't even need to practice anymore. So he is randomly assigned to handle such a dangerous matter. Not to mention that the practice time is delayed, even safety may not be guaranteed. In Yang Yuanzhen's eyes, he may not be considered anything at all. The assessment of the Martial Arts Academy has nothing to do with him, and all the experts in the family are not there. He won't be too sad if something happens to him at that time. Yang Zhe sneered at the corners of his mouth and walked back without looking back. He could only feel disappointed with this family. After returning to the other courtyard, Yang Zhe had already started to quickly calculate this matter, which had fallen on his head. For his own sake, he had to take care of it. At the same time, before leaving with the 4 elders, Yang Yuanzhen also instructed the family members to cooperate with Yang Zhe's orders as much as possible and investigate this matter thoroughly. In the other courtyard, Yang Zhe immediately summoned Lao Xie, which was an unavoidable matter. In the vast Yang family, there was no one else besides Lao Xie who he could trust. As soon as Lao Xie arrived, Yang Zhe told him everything. After Lao Xie finished listening, even the usually calm Lao Xie's face changed at this moment. Seeing the change in Lao Xie's expression at the moment, Yang Zhe asked, "What's wrong? What are your thoughts? Speak up and listen. What ideas can the old slave have?" He just sighed at the clever timing methods of the Wan Shark gang and the Jing Hai gang's actions. One reason is that the head of the family and the 4 elders are not in the mansion at this time. Therefore, if we use a tough approach to confront these 2 gangs, we will actually have no advantage. The second is that the 2 gangs suddenly attacked this time, but did not cause us too much damage. In other words, they cleverly chose a line and stopped it. Otherwise, if they had caused us too much damage, the matter would not have fallen on second young master now, but the head of the family would have taken the initiative to handle it directly. According to your statement, it is possible that someone has conspired with these 2 gangs to plot against me this time. Although I have no friends in the entire Yang family, there is only one person who wants to harm me and has the ability to harm me. Yang Zhe was not foolish, and he understood all of this by being thanked. That's right, Yang Hai's energy in the Yang family is beyond his own comparison, and with Yang Deyi being able to persuade his grandfather to do all of this, it's not that difficult. What Yang Zhe didn't expect was that Yang Hai had such great courage to sacrifice the interests of the Yang family to implement this plan. Isn't he afraid that Yang Yuanzhen would blame him? Anyway, this is just one's own speculation, and the possibility is very small. Putting these things aside for the time being, Yang Zhe turned to him and said, "Lao Xie, do you have any idea how to handle this matter?" "Don't worry, I'm still blocking the way in case of an accident." Upon encountering such a situation at first sight, Yang Zhe dared not make a decision alone. He could only let his subordinates think for a moment, fearing that Lao Xie might not be at ease, and added a sentence. At this point, we can only go and see the specific situation first. We have been huddled here, unable to even obtain first-hand intelligence, let alone think about how to solve it. But this is the second young master's first appearance, and we must bring enough manpower. After all, there may be danger outside, and when facing those two gangs, we need to show the momentum of the inner city family. In addition, the second young master remembers not to have a conflict with them the first time they meet. The headquarters of these two gangs are both in the outer city, and the gangs cannot enter the inner city. Therefore, friction often occurs between them and various families in the inner city. Do not magnify this friction, as it is not a small matter. Although our various families in the inner city look down on these gangs, they rely on their aggressive work style to gather many thugs under their command. There are also some people in the martial arts world who will join these gangs, and it is not easy to deal with them. And both of these gangs have high-level experts in the chi-inducing realm. Our current head and elder are not here. If there is a conflict, I'm afraid I won't be able to protect the safety of the second young master. Yang Zhe certainly didn't understand these, nodded to indicate that he already knew, and began to mobilize manpower within the estate. There was no problem in mobilizing manpower. With Yang Yuanjin's command, Yang Zhe ordered more than 10 skilled guards, for beginner-level martial artists from the chi-boosting realm, and 3 intermediate-level martial artists from the chi-boosting realm. In addition, he and Lao Xie, along with more than 20 people, drove out of the outer city. It was already noon when Yang Zhe and his group arrived at the scene of the accident. The Yang family was attacked this time at a restaurant on Ningyu Street in Nanchang. Originally a 3-story restaurant, when Yang Zhe saw it, the doors and windows of the restaurant were smashed. The sign that originally read Wanfu Restaurant was split in half. The things inside are not in any good condition, either moved away or destroyed, and there are even bloodstains inside the restaurant. On the way here, Yang Zhe learned about it and mentioned that there is still some situation with Ningyu Street. This street is not monopolized by any force, but is occupied by several factions in the inner city, along with several gangs from the outer city. These forces each organized a group of people to establish industries here, and the Yang family only has one industry on Ningyu Street, which is this restaurant. The harvest is usually good. After all, Ningyu Street is still a quite prosperous street, and the business of the restaurant is naturally not bad. However, now the restaurant has been smashed down, making it difficult to do business in the future, and there is also a loss in front of us. More than 20 people were guarding outside the restaurant, and they had already learned the news. When they saw Yang Zhe's arrival, these people all came forward to salute. I am Yang Zhe, tell me everything about this matter from beginning to end, without any concealment. Yang Zhe said sternly without beating around the bush. As soon as he spoke, the steward standing at the front spoke up. What happened this time is like this. Last night, more than 100 people from the Wan Shark gang and the Jing Hai gang suddenly rushed into the restaurant. They not only smashed it, but also took action. Yesterday, a total of 4 people died and 5 were injured, all of whom were the people we invited to take care of the restaurant. Is there any warning before the incident occurs? There was no warning. According to the person who escaped, everything happened suddenly, and almost they couldn't escape either. When we received the news and arrived, the restaurant was already like this. As for why we knew it was the hands of the Wan Shark gang and the Jing Hai gang, it was because they left us a letter. The steward took out an already opened letter and handed it to Yang Zhe. Seeking collection, seeking recommended tickets. End of this chapter.